Watching what's happening to Laurence Fox, I just wanted to say a few things from personal experience with the High Court. And I think first up is that no one goes to the High Court by choice. Certainly in my case, a case was brought against me over a tweet. You don't want to be in the High Court, but there's a part of you that thinks to yourself, but wait a minute, this can't be right. This can't be okay. I have to try and take this in front of people that will say the same thing as an ordinary person would say, which is, no, you're bonkers, this can't be okay. And that's how I ended up at the High Court, believing that at some point someone would say, no, Katie's right. This has got out of hand. This is not okay. You can't say that you're seriously harmed by a tweet if you can't show that it's actually damaged you and also it's been retracted and apologised for and deleted. But that's why I ended up there, and that's why I have things to share about the Laurence Fox case. So Laurence Fox loses in the High Court. Regardless of the detail, there's a few things that I think are really consistent and that I felt personally, although perhaps more personally because it was my money, it cost me our family home, and not by choice. And the first is the Vultures, the pure enjoyment and glee that is taken by the vultures out there who dine on your failings or perceived failings or downfall or any disasters that befall you because of their sense that they disagree with you, they hate your opinions, they don't like your views, and then they believe they hate you as a person. When something bad happens to you, like losing in the High Court, you see them, it's just like watching hyenas. Exactly that kind of cartoon hyena thing with the dripping fangs laughing with the, all of that. That's exactly the imagery I used to get, watching them cackle in enjoyment at watching you lose everything. And that was kind of, in my case, cheerleaded on by Channel 4 News, the BBC News, all these news anchors indulging the many who love to see you fall. It's a curiously British trait as well. There's a real bizarre British way of being which says that I feel better when someone else is doing worse. And many people out there will understand this at a personal level. You always have some friends who seem to be on your side, but actually kind of rather revel in the fact when your life is difficult or difficult things happen or embarrassing things happen to you, there are certain individuals who are actually gaining some kind of sense of pleasure in their own life because your life is a bit worse. That happens at real scale when you lose very publicly and you lose something that you believed you couldn't because common sense and everything says you can't be wrong. And that brings me to my second and third point. The second point, especially with the Laurence Fox case and mine, is that we now live in this digital age. So you have things like Twitter. Many of the judges don't use Twitter, have to have the very concept of Twitter, and this happened in my case, explained to them. And that's just explaining it in a theoretical way. That's not a user, that's not someone that understands it. And regardless, the law, a substantial part of it was written in the 1200s and then the 1600s, 1800s. The law was written in a time of the horse and cart. The law was written in a time when men still used a quill and ink. So by any stretch of any imagination, imagining that law can be diligently applied in a digital age is bonkers. Imagining that a judge who has no understanding of what Twitter even is best placed to adjudicate on the minutiae at the margins to do with perceived harm is bonkers as well. There's no case law to rely on because case law doesn't exist. And that's if you try and argue this in some rational way. So if you look at all the rational reasons why this is madness, it makes no sense. Then let's move on to the next step. And I may lose you at any of these steps, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not seeking to have you agree with me. I'm taking you down the steps that you will end up down if you're me. So even if you try and rationalize it, you can't, because at every rational level, it makes no rational sense. Now, you learn something that is a very difficult thing to learn, something that I wish I didn't know, which is that the law is not the law. It never has been. It's one of those things you want to believe in, right? There's some basic things you want to believe in as a human involved in something called society. You want to believe in law. You'd like to believe in the police. You like to believe in democracy. You kind of need to. And you like to believe in the medical profession. It would be helpful if you believed the medical profession were there to do no harm. So I no longer believe any of those things to be true. That's my personal understanding of the world, is that there is no such thing as a medical profession that will do no harm. There's no such thing as the police that were there to support you, and there's no such thing as the law. But here we go on the law front. The law is not the law. My father used to say, the law's the law, the law's the law. Well, it's not. The law is one man or one woman's interpretation of it on any particular day. And that's if they were even trying to adhere to the law. This one man, this one woman are absolutely at the will and the mercy, or will prostrate themselves to corporate interest, to powerful interest, to people they're trying to please, to those who will further their profession or their own elevation in their profession. So it is just one man or one woman, and whatever they think is best for them, or whatever the powerful have told them is best for others in the powerful establishment that controls us. And that's why they can make up a kind of narrative, a pantomime of case law says this, and watch me do these intellectual gymnastics and do a few somersaults to impress you with my legal knowledge, and look at my wig and look at my costume. But in truth, it's just whatever the establishment wants on that particular day, which is why someone like Murdoch gets away with stuff, because he's part of that. Whereas an ordinary person who's not towing the line of the establishment will never prevail in court, so seldom, so rarely. And once you know the law's not the law, of course, your whole perspective on life has changed. Never again would I have the self-indulgence of getting to a high court because I know it's a no-win situation. So in my case, new law was fabricated just for me, a new law made up just for me that said one tweet that was retracted, apologised for, deleted, loads of offers made to try and make things right, to do an interview, to all sorts of things offered to try and correct things, to apologise, whatever. That wasn't enough. For me, a new law that exists now in this country, that if you perceive you have been seriously harmed by my words, you can sue me or someone else tomorrow. And the hyenas celebrate that. The hyenas celebrate because they see you being done down. They see you being humiliated. And for them, that's a win. What these individuals and people at large don't see, of course, is that when you try and make a principled stand, it's because you don't want other people suffering what you're suffering. It cannot be the case that people can just perceive serious harm and sue someone. But that is the case now. And because people don't want to get to the High Court, they just pay out, they just settle. It's why Mail Online just paid out every time one of these corrupt organizations would try and say they were going to sue, because they know they're going to get a payment, because the High Court will never go in favor of the ordinary man. And where does that take us? It takes us to the point that you learn that that is the status quo. There is no such thing as the law. But what you also learn is that that doesn't make you wrong. It doesn't make you the bad person. And the hyenas can laugh all they want, but as long as you're true to yourself and you're true to what you know makes sense, you're true to what can only be the case, it's all right. And so I say to Laurence, even though right now I know exactly this feeling of lying on the floor, having taken another gut punch and seeing the world laughing at you, if you keep being true to yourself, you train yourself to endure the punches in order to prevail. It will be okay, because our paths are already set. And the more you free yourself to walk them, the truer your path becomes. And that's certainly been true in my life. By being freed of all the normal things like having a house or a place to live or a bank account or a job, even, having to change my whole family's names because of people coming for my children. By freeing myself utterly, I have been able to be true to my path. And it's why I'm so grateful now to have such a huge support base of people that hated me previously when they believed me to be something the media had contrived with some help from myself. Because if you keep walking your path and you're true to it, good things come. And if you're wondering about this, it's my favourite mug ever. And someone broke the handle, but I can't throw it away because I love it so much. Because little Mark, lovely Mark, calls me Little Birdie. And so that's why the mug. Just thought I'd explain, because if you're like me and your brain thinks at 55 different levels in 90 different directions, you'll be wondering that. Okay, so, and if you're Laurence and you're watching this, take some time to lie on the floor. The first thing you have to do is breathe in and out, and that's all. Turn everything off. Step away from all the noise. Give all your gadgets to someone you can trust. And just lie on the floor. And all you have to do is breathe in and then breathe out. And that's your main task. And it's literally all you have to do. And in time, you can move to step 2, which is possibly getting up, having some food and maybe having a shower. But for now, just lie still and concentrate on breathing in and out. And make that your only task. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me, and hopefully I'll get to see many of you. Thank you all for your support. I mean, it's overwhelming, but Silly Cow, Katie Hopkins, Silly Cow, April through July, I will just live on the road to get amongst our family and share some more of these messages with you. So thank you all for your support, and the website for those asking is www.katiesarms, Katie's Arms, ARMS, .com. Thank you very much. This really isn't about me. Come join your family on the road.